Everybody, and welcome to our webinar where we will be covering the partnership between ByDesign and FlexPay. I'm so excited that you guys have joined us here. A quick intro to FlexPay. I've got with me here Steve of the FlexPay team. But the company FlexPay is a new partner of ByDesign, and we've partnered to help deliver this critical service to you guys, helping to recover failed payments and the customers that are lost to churn based on those failed payments. So as we all know, subscription models are definitely picking up in this industry and have become a vital part of this business. That's why this partnership with FlexPay is so important right now in this industry and in each one of your businesses. So with that, I would love to introduce you all to Steve of the FlexPay team, and he can kind of go through some of the features and talk a little bit more about what FlexPay has to offer.
Awesome, Cassie. Thank you so much for having me. It's really exciting to be able to sit down with you and share the story and the new capabilities with ByDesign customers for something that's so important for them. What I'm going to do today is go over FlexPay and how we help solve and why we're such a critical part of your customer retention program, delivering very significant amounts of revenue back to the company that's currently being lost. And I think one of the aspects that I really want to highlight as well, Cassie, is that because FlexPay and ByDesign are partnered together, it's incredibly easy for the ByDesign customer to get started, isn't it? They can literally, within a day, be activated on FlexPay because the integration work has already been completed.
Absolutely. I mean, I know a lot of our clients that are joining us are probably thinking, am I going to be the first? Well, no need to worry there. We've already got clients using this integration. It is tested and proven. So no need to worry there. It is truly turnkey because that development has already been done.
Excellent. Yes. And that's so important, is that something that could be literally within a week have significantly better results on your failed payment recovery, delivering very significant amounts of revenue. So let's dive into what failed payments are. I think there might be some misunderstandings or just, we can increase your level of understanding about both failed payments, what causes them, and how painful and harmful they really are to your business. So this is data actually shared by Visa. They ran a study with Walmart customers, and what they did was track the rate of failed payments or decline decisions when a card is submitted for authorization by the merchant. And it was fascinating. What we saw from that data when Visa shared was that when somebody goes to the store and uses the card, the fraud rates are very, very low. In fact, the decline rate in store where somebody's using the card with a chip is only about 1.5%. So the system is working as it is intended. And clearly, the level of fraud that banks are aware of in store is very, very low, and they treat the transaction as a low-risk transaction. The problem, though, is that banks do look at online and recurring transactions as a much higher source of fraud, because all fraudsters have gone online. And so what happens is the banking system, the banks that issue the cards to consumers, start to treat these transactions with more scrutiny, and they actually have biased their algorithms to be more skeptical and look for risks of fraud versus fraud itself. And so when the transaction is submitted by an e-commerce player, when somebody comes online and buys online, the rate of decline of transaction immediately jumps to 15%. But even worse, for recurring transactions, the average rate, again, this is the average rate decline on all transactions that are submitted is 24%. So what that literally means is virtually every customer that is as billing through a recurring billing solution will be declined at some point. And you can imagine that has enormous impact on your retention and your revenue. And that's why when we talk about the failed payment problem, we really want to highlight how much harm it is causing for your business. Now, this seems extreme, the numbers seem so large, but let's go through the reasons why this occurs. The banks that issue credit cards to consumers incur about $30 billion every year in fraud losses. These are the costs. When they approve a transaction and tell the merchant it's okay to complete it, they're on the hook if that transaction turns out to be fraudulent. So they're guaranteeing it. So in response to that, in their efforts to try to reduce their fraud losses, what they've done is program their decision algorithms looking for these elements of fraud. They run these scores, And when the score threshold starts to creep above a certain level, they start to decline transactions. And the reality is that the recurring billing type of transaction is one of the data points that's submitted along with the packet of information when the card is submitted for approval, and that's treated with more scrutiny. And so when the $30 billion losses for the banks has been translated, their action has been to decline more transactions. In fact, there's over $400 billion in transactions that are being lost every year to merchants as a result of these declined transactions. They're not fraudulent transactions. These are transactions where the bank feels like there is a risk of fraud, and they'd much rather take the risk of losing the transaction revenue, which is a couple pennies, versus being on the hook for approving a transaction for maybe a couple $100 or $1,000 that they have to make good on. So that caused, of course, enormous pain, enormous harm to both consumers and merchants who are trying to transact. And so it's so important to realize that the failed payment most often is not caused by the customer. It's not a problem with their card. It's not a problem with you as the merchant. They're actually not fraudulent transactions. In fact, the Visa data tells us that 2/3 of the failed payments are what we call false declines, where the authorization decisions are being made in error, a false positive. They are not a collections problem. When a customer experiences a failed payment, I think there's some merchants that look at that and say, well, the card was declined. I maybe ship product to them. I'm going to go try to collect on that. So they put the customer into a collections process, which essentially accuses the customer of causing a problem, which they didn't, which causes enormous harm to your relationship, and forces the customer to decide whether or not they want to solve the problem or not, which immediately causes churn when they say, no, I don't want to help you. So that's not great. And the reality is that there's no single cause of failure. There's literally billions of reasons why the bank might decline. And that is actually some of the code that comes back when the decline decision is returned back to FlexPay that we work with in our AI system to then find a way to resubmit to optimize the chance of recovery. So these are common myths. They're not true. And it's really important to understand this in the context. So when you approach the problem, you recognize that the problem can be solved. That's the good news. And why it's so important for businesses in direct selling or any recurring billing is that you think about a failed payment. When a failed payment occurs, the outcome is only one of two outcomes. Either the failed payment is recovered and that customer continues to bill with all the natural billing cycles they would have had in their life cycle, or the failed payment is not recovered, the customer is lost, and you lose all the LTV, all the future payments the customer would have made. And I can imagine, Cassie, that for the ByDesign customer, the spread and what the impact is on a positive or negative outcome is enormous.
Absolutely. And at a client level, I know everybody who has joined us here can attest to experiencing this firsthand. When you have those recurring payments that do decline, you can go and try to get that customer back, thereby increasing your cost of that customer because you have to basically win them back. Anytime a payment declines, it's an opportunity for the client to walk away. And they're not walking away from just that payment. They're walking away from that and every subsequent payment for the future subscription services. So I know you've all experienced it, and I love seeing the stats that Steve just shared outside of our industry even, because, we have a heightened experience with these declines because our sales force is out there talking with their customers closely, having those personal relationships with them. So when your field relays to you that their customers have cards that are declining, but they have money in the bank and they just used their cards somewhere else, there's all these real life stories about this experience that, the customer knows that they've got the money, that they've used the card before, but it's still declining. And I feel like our visibility to it in this industry is much higher than in a traditional e-commerce, simply because you do have that sales force that's out there working with your customers. So a lot of times that's where you're going to get this feedback, is not necessarily from the customers, but from your reps who are out there trying to help their customers to make these sales.
Yeah, that's what's so frustrating, right? The reps work so hard to gain the sales. It's so expensive to acquire a new customer, and these high failed payment rates. And the reality is that, or the irony is that when a failed payment occurs, the end customer doesn't blame the bank. They don't blame their bank card. They blame the brand as the cause of the problem.
Absolutely.
That they experience it on. Because when they're using the card elsewhere and it's not being declined, they recognize it's only because of a problem with you. And that really does lasting harm to your brand and your relationship with your customer as well. So trying to find a way, like with FlexPay, to be able to solve it quickly without the customer's visibility is even more important. So again, as we talked about, this is a structural problem. It's not caused by you. It's not caused by your customers. And this is what FlexPay does. We would help cover this. We've been around a long time. We've covered over $250 million for our customers. And what I'd like to point out with that is when we measure that $250 million in recovered dollars, that is just a single month of the recovery. But the reality is that the LTVs recovered is about 1.5 billion, because we know the customers that have recovered continue to bill naturally. We've got hundreds of customers in all industries. We've worked a lot with a lot of direct selling companies and across different verticals. And we really work with transactions of all sizes and all business models. So I think it gives a tremendous amount of experience and expertise to feed our models with different types of customers and segments and business lines to really optimize the performance of the system. And one of the reasons why FlexPay's performance is so powerful and so effective is that the founders of the company have tremendous expertise and experience in the payment system. In fact, those relationships they developed over the years allowed us to get access to over 5 billion transactions from the issuing banks that include the client codes, even down to the level of the issuing banks. So the algorithms we develop are an AI machine learning system. And I know AI is used by quite a bit of companies very loosely, but we have very effective AI that is actually on a 16th generation now. Again, we've been at this a while with continuous refinements, continuous improvements in recovery. And the system, it works in a really unique way. It looks at each individual failed payment as a unique transaction to recover. It creates a strategy for each individual failed payment. It'll understand which bank declined it, because the banks have tendencies for what they declined. It'll look at what product it was. It'll look at the day of the week. It'll look at a lot of hundreds of different factors and create a recovery strategy that applies against each customer. And that's really why the performance that's able to deliver is so unparalleled. And what's really important about the FlexPay system that often probably is underappreciated is that it works directly with the banking system itself. It works directly as soon as the payment is declined. That is routed to us through the ByDesign system. We recognize it, we start working on it, and it works quickly. And because it works directly with the payment system, the customer is never aware of the fact that failed payment occurs when we're able to recover, which means they're never being asked to make a choice. There's no service or product interruption. Which is so critical for not interrupting the relationship and the products that the relationship they have with you. So again, and the nice thing about FlexPay is it's working on the backbone you already have. It's working on the integration with ByDesign. It works directly with your payment processor. None of that changes. When we recover a transaction, the fulfilled payment goes directly into your merchant account. It's working with the relationship you have. Again, and Cassie, we're talking about. The integration is done. All of that infrastructure you already have, we tap into, we partner with, and it's invisible to both the merchant and the customer.
Yeah, and one other note that I'd like to make here is, because of that AI-driven machine learning, it doesn't matter what your product is. It doesn't matter where you're selling your product. It doesn't matter the demographic of your customer. It really applies to every business. And there's this opportunity to recoup those payments and protect those customers from churn, regardless of what you're selling, where you're selling, or who you're selling it to. Likewise, because of the way that the integration was done on top of the ByDesign payments system, it doesn't matter if you're using our cart or your own cart, if you're using our APIs to integrate into the system, it really can be leveraged regardless of your model, your product, or where you're doing your business.
Yeah, and just to reinforce, we work with all currencies, we work with all issuing banks, so there's really no restrictions on any of the volume that's going through your business that we can't help you with. Okay, and there's a nuance in what we do that I think is incredibly important for everybody to understand. And this is the idea that going back to the slide we showed before, that when a failed payment is not recovered, that ends the relationship. But when it is recovered, all the future payments, the LTV of that customer is going to be delivered to you. So when this works, what it's doing is extending your subscriber relationships. And it's so important for your members to be able to continue it's so expensive to acquire new customers. And right now, if we use the averages, and I think you have averages that you see, Cassie, right, in terms of where the average rate of churn in a business is.
Yeah, absolutely. And industry wide, we always say, it's that 30-30-30 rule. You've got 30 new coming in, 30 that are sticking around, and that 30 that's walking out the door. And what this does is it helps you to address that 30 walking out the door, because a lot of them don't necessarily actively choose to walk out the door. It's just that at the point that their recurring subscription fails, they just don't renew it. So they're leaving by not pursuing it fully. And that's really this market that we are addressing, is that 30%. And industry wide, we've seen subscription become a big part of the business. I remember 15 years ago, every single sale that we made in this industry, you had to go out and get it. This concept of having the recurring payments, wasn't always in place, but now that it is in place, we see subscription accounting for 20 to even like 80% of some of our clients' businesses. So, subscription revenue, that recurring revenue month over month, is a big part of this industry and of our clients' businesses in particular. And what FlexPay is doing, and why I love what they're offering, is it really allows you to address that 30% that's always walking out the door. And anything you can do to reduce that 30 by any amount is going to help you, not just this month, but next month, 6 months from now, a year from now, because like Steve said, the lifetime value of that customer is so much greater than just the one payment that's declining today.
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, we see on average that usually about half of all churn is being caused, but there's actually a term for it, involuntary churn. Voluntary churn is when your customer comes in and says, I want to end my relationship, and involuntary churn is caused by bank failures or the card declines. It's usually about 50% of all churn. It's a very high number. And think about if you have the ability to start to reduce that 30% number on what's walking out the door by 5, 10, 15%, what impact that really has. You think about it, when the customer is recovered this month, they continue to build next month, and the month after that, and the month after that. So the compounded revenue growth it has on your business is really tremendous. And what's important to realize again is that because the acquisition costs of these customers have already been incurred by you, the revenue that those customers are contributing is incredibly profitable. And that's what we talk about overall, not just revenue growth for your company, but more profitable revenue growth, because the revenue that's being created now is not having to be burdened by the acquisition costs to be replaced what you have to go through now. So we see all of your core metrics, your LTV, your customer retention, total revenue growth, and profit being impacted in a very positive way as a result of this. So total FlexPay value, again, we see, and again, every company is different. Their churn numbers are different, their decline rates are different, the recovery rates are different, but we have delivered up to a 70% recovery for our customers. It typically translates to about a 45% increase in the overall life cycle, the lifespan of customers. Because FlexPay works fairly quickly, in most cases, the average to recover a failed payment is a little under 3 days. Again, when you think how important that is for cash flow, think how important that is for avoiding the customer visibility of the failed payments. And because this works in the background directly with the payment system, it's completely invisible to your customer. So there's really avoiding the opportunity or the chance that the customer becomes aware of this and has the opportunity either to blame you, which is a very negative experience for your brand and for your customer, or be forced to make a decision about whether or not they want to continue with it or not. So all that's avoided. It drives, again, profit and revenue growth, and probably is going to be the most effective reduction single act you can take in reducing customer churn that you have within your disposal. and the reality is that it's actually really easy to get started for the ByDesign customers, right, Cassie?
Absolutely. We've made it very easy, as we've already said. You know, the heavy lifting has been done, and we've already got clients using this tool. But if this is something that you'd like to learn more about, we'd love to talk to you about the options, answer any questions you have. Obviously, we've got the chat here where we can answer some questions, but we also have a newly launched marketplace that helps to educate you, our clients, about what partners are available and what kind of offerings they have. So you can see FlexPay there in our new marketplace. There's a link here or in your Freedom back office on that left side panel where we have our news and updates. You'll see a link there to go to the marketplace as well. So that's a great place to find out more. You can also reach out to support, reach out to client growth. Anybody on our team is going to be happy to help answer any questions that you have. As I'm sure, Steve, your team at FlexPay is also open and available to answer those questions.
Absolutely. We want to make this as simple and easy to get started as possible. And so we've created the marketplace page, super easy way to be able to raise your hand. Both the ByDesign reps and the FlexPay reps are available at your disposal to help you understand what it really takes to get started. It can take literally minutes. We can walk you through the process. And most importantly, I can't emphasize how quickly we can start benefiting your business. Once you can be live within a day, and you start seeing the benefits within the first day, first week, first month. It'll start to stack up and compound month after month. Regardless of what your performance is, it's going to be beneficial to your business and deliver a very high ROI. Okay, so
absolutely. And one thing, sorry, Steve. I was just going to say, I wanted to also hit on something that's near and dear to my heart. As you guys know, at ByDesign, I have a field development background, so I'm always thinking about the reps of your business and those distributors that are out there. And, you know, we've talked a lot in today's webinar about the customer and about the payments and the impact to you, but think about the trust that you can gain with your field and the relief that your field will have knowing that this is in place. You know, I've been asked, you know, are my reps going to have to do something different here? Well, the answer is no. They can stop doing some of the things they were doing before, which is going back to the customer to ask for a different payment method, or going back to the customer to ask them to sign up again after they've been declined. So think about your rep experience as well. And how much this recurring revenue can impact their volume, their rank month over month. You know, this is something that is a very easy thing to add to your business that can really gain you a lot in the eyes of, you know, your field, your potential recruits, anybody looking to join the business. It's just one less thing that they need to worry about because the system is taking care of their customers for them.
Wow, that's such an important point to make, that distributors are able to spend less time tracking down the problem and trying to solve it, and spend more time on acquiring new customers. And the reality is that they're going to earn more money just every day because the problems that they're occurring are going to be reduced. That's fantastic. Okay, so we do want to open up the Q&A, the opportunity for the attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box on the screen to submit your question. Cassie and I will stay on, and even if we can't address your question live, we'll be able to answer you through the chat box. We do have a couple questions that we've gotten in, though. The first question is, how does the billing work, and what does it actually cost me as a customer to use? So the wonderful thing about FlexPay is that we only charge when we recover. There's no upfront fee, there's no installation fee, there's no flat fee. There is a rate that we charge on recovery. We charge only for the single month of recovery. So all the subsequent payments that the customer is making after recovery, there's no fee for. And you know, my suggestion is go ahead and submit your information through the marketplace page, and the FlexPay rep will work out the right plan for you to get you started quickly and to really deliver the best possible ROI for you. And the second question, I think Cassie is best for you to answer. You know, is the Does the customer have to be on a specific processor or integration with ByDesign to use FlexPay, or is it really available for everybody?
Yeah, and I kind of hit on that earlier, but the answer is no. Like, it does not have to be a specific processor. It does not have to be a certain version of checkout. It really does, because it's working behind the scenes, and the injection of the integration is on the payment side and not so much at the cart checkout level. It doesn't matter if you're on checkout 2.0 or 1.5, if you're using Nuvei or Nexio or, whomever your payment processor might be. FlexPay was actually already integrated with many of these payment processors before we were introduced to them at ByDesign. So they had already done a lot of that heavy lifting before we even got involved. So we just made sure that the integration was done in such a way that we could leverage the work they had already done to be available for any of those processors worldwide that you might be using.
Awesome. And those are the questions I see so far. So Cassie and I will stay online live for about 5 more minutes and answer any questions that come through the chat box. We'll probably answer them directly to the chat box. But I really want to thank Cassie for giving us the opportunity to talk about FlexPay and to really, share the story about how much value that the FlexPay, turning FlexPay on can deliver to you, how important it is for your business, and what an important problem that we can help solve. So thank you so much for having us, and we really, really value and appreciate our relationship and our partnership with ByDesign.
Likewise. And thank you, Steve, for educating us all a little bit more about recurring payments. I know from my personal experience being in the shoes of our attendees, these recurring payments can often be invisible to us. We don't necessarily spend a lot of time thinking about how to impact this. And so Steve and FlexPay in general is offering a solution to a problem that many of us may not have realized we had, or if we did have it, we didn't know what the options were to be able to solve it. And the fact that you're bringing a solution that is not only effective, but efficient, fast, reliable, cost-effective. I mean, you're checking all the boxes. So yeah. I greatly appreciate the partnership and look forward to seeing more of our clients benefiting from this partnership that we have.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most important message that I want to send is every single one of the ByDesign customers can benefit from this, and they will see, I mean, again, from day one, from week one, you'll be able to see the extra recovery that's taking place that's not occurring now. You'll see your churn rate start to trickle down because of it. It's a really powerful outcome, and I encourage everybody to take advantage of it. Well, thank you so much.
All right, thanks.